Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: how does someone politely end a conversation with a person who won't stop talking? I read one of those mildly interesting newspaper features recently with an etiquette expert. Their advice was, rather than make an excuse, you should be more direct that you are ending the conversation and say something like, "I've really enjoyed talking with you. I'm going to circulate around the room now, as it's less likely to create an expectation you might come back." It does work too. I'm going to circulate around the room now. Even better if A. You're in a park. B. You're trapped in your cubicle at work. C. You're beginning hospice and the nurse is going over the care plan. I'm an Uber driver. I was once summoned to pick up 2 people for just this reason. They had me drive 4 blocks /25 miles /1.5 minutes to another bar just to get out of a conversation with someone. Minimum fare, $3.75, and $10 tip on the app. I would gladly tip $10 to get me out of a terrible, inescapable conversation. Just curious, did the app add the $10, or did they choose to tip that amount? The tip is voluntary and user set. I'm an Uber driver. I was once summoned to pick up 2 people for just this reason. They had me drive 4 blocks /25 miles /1.5 minutes to another bar just to get out of a conversation with someone. Minimum fare, $3.75, and $10 tip on the app. On the flip side of that, there's a small subset of Uber drivers that seem to do it because it allows them to get a captive audience for conversation and just won't shut the fuck up for an entire ride. It's one of the few things that'll cause me to knock a star or 2 off of their rating. You're my Uber driver. We're unlikely to ever meet again, but you do know where I live and that I'm not home tonight. You don't need to know how many kids I have or how I met my wife. I've been saying for years that Uber /LYFT need to add a quiet mode option for when you don't feel like engaging in conversation with the driver. I've had some friendly drivers where I didn't mind the conversation, but I've also had a few that I rated lower because they wouldn't shut the fuck up. Most recently I was taking an Uber to Lax Airport and this lady was ranting about punishing her kid because he ate the entire pack of bologna at home, leaving none for his sister. Literally for an entire hour I had to listen about this fucky bologna drama. It was unbearable. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's got to be done, so just do it. They need a break anyway. This is the right answer. You simply need to interrupt them, apologize for doing so and let them know you need to do something else. Which is still a little awkward, because I don't actually have something else to do. I just want to do nothing without having to listen to them. I have to return some videotapes. But Blockbuster closed years ago. Continues talking. Oh no, Blockbuster didn't have these videotapes, winks. Worst case I've ever had. I basically gave every verbal cue I knew of, eventually stood up, then stood in the doorway, then backed out of the doorway. And this dude was still talking. In the end I just said I'll be back and closed the door on him mid-sentence. My dad's like this. When I was a kid /teenager he'd follow me to every room of the house talking at me. If I went to the bathroom he'd stand outside and continue talking to me through the door. If I had to leave, like to go to school, I would literally leave the house and he'd stand in the doorway and continue talking as I walked down the path and out of sight. He still does this when I go back home to visit. It wouldn't be so bad if he'd actually be willing to have a conversation. But he only talks at you. If you try and say anything, he just talks over you as if you haven't said a thing. I'm annoyed. So, did you go back? He's still waiting. We have a great line that we use in Ireland. I haven't heard it used abroad, but it could well be used all over for all I know. The person is rabbiting on and is showing no sign of stopping. You clearly and firmly say, "I'll let you go." Then with the confidence of a person doing them a favor you turn on your heel and stride away. This has the effect of making them think you are the one wanting to avoid wasting their time. If they figure it out they can't call you out on it, because to do so would be to admit, at least to themselves, that they are wasting your time. In fact, most people never allow themselves to think it might be them who is holding you up, so they accept the offer of your leaving in order for them to get on with their important work. In general, if someone says "I'll let you go" to me, rare but it has happened, I smile and say bye and end the conversation. It is a social convention and I abide by it. They want out. No ego. Let them go and the best of luck to them. People appreciate that, I imagine. We have something like that in Germany that translates to I don't want to keep you any longer. Edit, the phrase is ich würde dich nicht lange aufhalten. For everyone who was wondering which phrase I am talking about. The problem with that is 9 times out of 10 the people talking on and on it you will say, oh I have plenty of time and you're still screwed. 8 head out. Leaves own house. Mental health worker here. I see patients every day who will talk forever if you don't stop them. You simply have to interrupt and redirect / or end the conversation. I always politely tell them, let me stop you there or let me jump in there. Sometimes you have to be abrupt or else you will be held hostage by the one-sided conversation. I know it's dubious to ask advice over Reddit, but is this a sign of declining mental health? I know a handful of people who are very far along in life and I could tell them I have to go because my house is burning down and they have to tell me 2 more stories about how Margaret's house burned down in '65 and she made the best soup and blah blah blah. Edit. So, from the comments I've gathered that talking a lot can be a sign of mental illness, but it isn't at all an exclusive cause. I'm complaining but I'll let my grandma ramble for an hour before interrupting. She isn't hurting anyone and letting her talk makes her happy. I'm young so I have plenty of time to spend on others. Not always. Those who are manic or who have ADHD can talk excessively, or sometimes it's just an anxious response. Some people just talk a lot. I have a good friend who is very down to earth and, as far as I've always been aware, mentally stable, but the girl can talk. Like my eyes will be glazing over and she will just keep talking. I just think she has so much to say she can't keep it in. Her whole family is the same way. I used to work on a team with a guy who had Asperger's and some related issues processing social cues. He would get started on a subject and just talk at people for 30 minutes plus without pausing for breath. He didn't get the cues that people were losing interest and would continue indefinitely unless you directly interrupted and told him to stop. He wouldn't be offended and generally appreciated being told he should have stopped. It was almost a rite of passage in the office to endure an extended one-way lecture about his choice of bathroom tiles or the benefits of all-weather road tires over winter tires, etc. I have mild Asperger's and I experience both ends of this, as extroverts tend to adopt me, which I like. The cues are basically another language which we don't pick up as easily as allistic people. I can sometimes spot the micro-expressions but it doesn't mean I know what to do with them, so would rather be told to finish up than know I'm making someone feel bored / uncomfortable and not know what to do with it. I have a dear, extrovert friend Atui who will talk the hind legs off a donkey. Last time we met I tried to end the conversation with an arm stretch and, I'd better go work on my sketchbook. To which she replied, oh, can I see your sketchbook? There went another half hour. Her son handles situations like this with, I'm not being funny mum, but can you go now? Anne was getting a little chummy. When people get too chummy with me, I like to call them by the wrong name to let them know I don't really care. Ron Swanson. I don't know who this Ron Swanson guy is but I like him. In a sexual way of course. You must be his best friend, then. You guys still never talk sometimes. SSSHH. Do you hear that? No. 1 second, and just run off. As a parent, this actually happens. Which one are you? I'll give the opposite advice. If you think your friends are always thirsty, have weak bladders, or get weird sudden strokes of to-do lists all the time, you talk too much. Edit. I'd thank you guys for the karma, but, I've got to get a drink and AP, like a lot. Also I just remembered I gotta call grandma. But I actually do have a weak bladder. But I actually do get weird sudden strokes. My turn. This only works if you stroke their face at the same time. Edit. Thanks for the silver. I will throw it in a pond and wish you good luck. Right. Great. Listen, I gotta go wash my crotch, I'll see you later. Edit. Obligatory thanks for the silver. Still don't understand it, but thanks anyway. I find myself leaning at a 45 degrees angle, indicating the direction I'd like to go. Surgery. I'm late for surgery. Tell them you are having a rather heavy period and must go to the restroom before you bleed all over yourself. And if you're a guy, try to sound extra confident. Listen for the briefest pause when they talk. BC they got a breath at some point and say, hey listen, I really gotta go to the bathroom, I've been holding it in forever and I might just shit right here. Voila. BC they got a breath at some point. You haven't met my mom and some members of her family. And the shit thing doesn't work with one of them. I've learned to hang up on people. Drop an enormous, 90 decibel, pants rattling fart while maintaining eye contact. Then smile and say, excuse me. I have to go wipe. This is fucking disgusting, LMAO. Then smack your lips together to gesture that you can taste it. And say you can detect no key afterbirth to show you are sophisticated.